Now have what is probably, indubitably, irrefutably, the best TGS module to have ever existed. So, AI journalism, the module I took part in. Have you ever wondered what AI can do? Are its powers truly limitless? Does ChatGPT plot to take over humanity and enslave us all? Well, fear no more. I can confidently tell you, after studying this for 2 months, that ChatGPT not only does not want to take over humanity, but it can actually be used for good. By combining the study of news and how they can be used to alter current events, and how AI is used to write articles, students here were able to compare the unique writing of humans with the writing flow of AI-written articles, and they were able to produce some masterpieces themselves. So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Raya, Mabel, and Kenzo.
Hello, and welcome to our module presentation. I'm Kenzo from America and Japan, and I'm presenting with...
I'm Raya from Bangladesh.
And I'm Mabel from Canada.
Together, we'll show you our module, AI Journalism. There's a human for that.
Okay, so here we have on the right an image of our module at Al Jazeera. And then on the left, as you can see, we have Trump eating noodles, and we have the Pope wearing Balenciaga. Do anyone here think that the Pope is fashionable enough to wear Balenciaga? Okay, that was an awful lot of yeses. But actually, this was an AI-generated image. So before we launch into this presentation, I would like to pose a question to you all, something that we as learners in this module had to ponder a lot. Could you tell if something was generated by AI versus a human?
So for this module, our driving question encompassed 3 different aspects. First of all, as you already know, it's AI and journalism. And we also try to investigate journalism in the context of Bosnia. So how can AI be applied to 3 different types of journalism: investigative, solution-based, and opinion, and how we can apply the skills that we gained in the digital context of Bosnia. And then we compared our articles in comparison to an article generated by AI. During our online learning, where initial investigation started, we looked at the origin of news and journalism since the beginning, and especially we looked at in the context of our home countries. So we had a mirror board where we written who the first news article was written by, and it was really interesting to learn about your own country's journalism. And when we came to term, we were very prepared, knowing the 3 different types of journalism and the history of journalism in details. After each week, when we came to term, we started to look at different aspects in Bosnia. During our stay, we had lots of excursions to Al Jazeera, to the Skavik waterfalls, and a lot of other places, which allowed us to experience the country as a whole. And after that, we were asked to write formatives each week about all of these aspects. And then we also generated AI articles to see the differences in the articles that we wrote versus the ones written by AI.
So the first topic that we covered in our module was journalism and history. So in this week, we spoke to guest speakers Aida, Borislav, and Nidzara. They were all journalists during the siege of Sarajevo, and they provided an invaluable perspective into what wartime reporting is like, and then comparable to now while they are still working in the field. If any of them are there, big thank you to you all. Then we also went to the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we got to look at newspapers in Yugoslavia and also in Bosnia and Herzegovina today, and as well as more wartime news that would get spread. Using these experiences, we then wrote articles, which you can see in the top corner and then also the bottom. So this is an example of how we used experiences in our module, and that inspired us to write articles.
The next topic we focused on was nature and journalism, And personally, for me, this was my favorite part of the entire module because we got to do a lot of excursions to get out in the nature and out of the classroom, which was really valuable experience for me. Our first excursion was to Lukomir village, which, as some of you may know, is considered one of the last traditional Bosnian villages that we have today. And our second excursion was at the Skakavac waterfall. And as you can see, these are some photos from the excursions themselves. We had a really fun time going out in nature, seeing unique crafts from the locals at Lukomir village, and enjoying the hike to the waterfall. And personally, for me, I enjoyed this actually, I enjoyed the Skakavac waterfall excursion so much that I decided to write my article on it. And you'll see this as a recurring theme in both our articles and our booth, that a lot of us decided to write our articles based on personal experiences that we witnessed firsthand.
Then our third topic was culture and journalism. So as we were all tourists to the city of Sarajevo, we got to look at the culture of the city through the perspective or the lens of a journalist. So in this, we went to the Sarajevo Film Festival, and I watched two films there. I watched Fem and I watched The Uncle, and both of them were absolutely terrifying. I went with a couple of people, and I'm sure you can all agree on this. They were terrifying in different ways, but both terrifying. We also talked to Sarah. Sarah, you're here. Thank you so much. She is a high school student who also works at a bank. She's very interesting. I would recommend going to talk to her. And then we also went to Al Jazeera Balkans. Just to highlight this, I sort of fangirled while I was here. Al Jazeera is an international news organization, and then Balkans is a massive region. So we got to basically be in the studio, where there was a lot of very techie equipment, and it looked like it cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there were a lot of wires, so I was trying not to trip. But despite that, our guest speaker, Leila, she made us feel really comfortable, and she got to tell us about journalism in the Balkans and how that's different from Al Jazeera news elsewhere. And also she introduced to us the topic of AI in the field of journalism as a journalist working at a very professional news organization, and how that is, or in this case, is not being used. And then we wrote articles inspired by these events. But yeah, Raya can tell you more about AI in this module.
As you already know from the title of the module, AI is one of the main aspects of our project. So we looked at all different dimensions of AI that you can think about, from deep fakes to comparing our articles with AI articles. We also looked at ethical concerns. When we went to Al Jazeera, for example, we learned that in the news station, every computer has ChatGPT blocked. So that was a really interesting thing that I learned, that different companies are regulating and creating new laws against how to ethically use AI, which was really interesting. And during our experiences, we also learned a lot about using how AI is also being used in journalism. For example, again, in Al Jazeera, there is some news correspondents who are AI and actually are being used. So the question that was initially asked in this presentation, could you tell if something was written by an AI versus a human? Well, you can. The reason is because AI can never have the human aspect that a human journalist can have. And that we learned very well throughout this module. We learned from Ida, especially one of our guest speakers, who talked deeply about how emotion plays a role in telling a story, how one story can be told in multiple ways, and nobody will care about it until you bring the human aspect to it. And that we learned that AI could never do. And we written a lot of articles about AI. For example, I wrote about how ChatGPT is questionably spreading Russian propaganda in Ukraine, and it was really fun to investigate that. And you can also see a lot more articles that we wrote in our booth. Finally, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who helped us, especially our module leads, Sophie and Shasta. Can we have a big round of applause for them, please? They've been so great in coherent, coordinating, and their management was really good, and excursions that I was never expecting in a journalism module, like hiking, and it was really cool. And I also want to thank our guest speakers, Ida, Yara, Sarah, and Borislav. Thank you to everyone for making it very special. Thank you.